Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Francisca, and in today's video we are going to be making these very pretty satin bonnets. Well, we have satin on the inside, so that's why I'm calling it a satin bonnet. It is actually a no tie satin bonnet. It does not have elastic as well. And you'll probably be wondering, how are we going to wear this bonnet on our head when it is not a tie bonnet, it is not a bonnet with elastic? You actually need to watch to the end. And I would have actually tried this bonnet on my head, but this one will not allow me. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please click the subscribe button, click the bell, so get updated when I post new videos. And please support my other channel, my natural hair channel. It's called Siska Chidobe. You see the name on the screen. Please go ahead and support me by clicking the subscribe button. And now let's get right into our sewing tutorial. So guys, this is the fabric that I'll be using for my satin bonnet. The satin will be on the inside. This beautiful fabric print will be on the outside. So my fabric is cut out into 26 by 26 inches, thereabouts. 26 by 26 inches. This is actually cut into a square. So you want to cut your fabric into a square of this size, more or less, depending on how big or how small you want the satin bonnet to be on your head. This is for more or less like a medium sized satin bonnet. So I have 26 by 26. I'm going to fold it into two like this. Can you see what I just did? So I folded it into two, and it's going to give you something like a rectangle that has 26 on the folded edge and then 13 inches on this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is fold this rectangle that we have here into two again, and this is going to give us a square that is 13 by 13 inches. Okay, we are going to make sure that what we have is correct, and what I'm going to do to ensure that what I have is correct is to place my tape rule right at the apex here, and I'm going to be marking 13 inches. So right here you can see that I have exactly 13 inches. So what I'm going to do now is, with my tape rule right at this point, I'm going to be moving the tape rule at the bottom here, and then what I'm going to be doing is marking 13 inches and connecting it to this end right here. So I'll continue to move my tape rule like this, ensuring that I have it at the apex. Very important. Mark 13, connect like this. So just continue to do that for your own. So once I'm done, creating this arc that we have here, I'll just go on to cut my fabric out like this. So guys, after cutting, this is what I have. By the time you open this up, you're going to have like a huge circle going on here. So I'm going to use this now to cut out my satin fabric, fold it as we did earlier, and then just place it on top. This is my folded satin fabric. So I folded it. So I'll just place my Ankara fabric right on top like this. Then I'll go on to cut this part out. Okay, so guys, after cutting both of them, this is what I have. What I'm now going to do is to just place them on top of each other, open them up, place them on top of each other with right sides touching. And what we want to do is to go on to make a cut on this bonnet. I want to make this cut because I do not want to attach an elastic to this, and I want to have this satin bonnet be able to pass through my head. So before we go on to make the cuts, I'll be coming right here from the edge of this fabric, just a corner here. I'll mark 3.5 inches. Okay, so this is my 3.5 inches cut. So I'll be sewing by 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch at this point. Okay, so I'll just mark that on both sides. You can sew your cut triangular at the top, like this. So can you see what I did here? I just marked it as if I'm marking a dart, if you get what I mean. Yes, I marked it as if I'm marking a dart. So what I'm going to do now is to go on to, sew it like this, and then, sew it like this. Okay, so guys, after sewing this is what I have. What you want to do is now extend that cut up to, where you sewed. Okay, so that by the time you turn it, that area is going to, be really neat. Do you understand? So you want to go on to do that. If you make that cut, you're not going to be having this part looking like this. So just go ahead and make that cut up to where you sewed. So I'll just come right here now and then make that cut up to that point there, and by the time I turn it, you will see that it is going to sit better. Okay, so just go ahead and make that cut. So can you see it's actually coming out much more better. So what you're going to do after that is to just turn it right over like this. So can you see that it is laying nicely at this point? And then what you want to do is to give this a press. So go ahead and do that for yours. Okay, so when you give it a press, it's going to come out really neat. And then what I'm going to do next is to go on to run a gathered stitch from this end right to this other end. And you may want to actually just pin this down so your fabric stays in place while you are stitching. Just pin the corners and remove while you are sewing. So guys, after sewing my gathered stitch or loose stitch, this is what I have. So the satin is right on this side, and this is how this edge looks. So what I'm going to do next is to go on to pull the gathered stitch. And while I'm gathering this, I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch on both sides for overlap. So if the circumference of my head is 23 inches, I'm going to be gathering this to 25 inches. This is because of how we are going to be wearing this satin bonnet. There's sort of like going to be an overlap at this side. The reason why I'm asking us to add that overlap at this part, the extra 1 inch on both sides, is so that when you wear your satin bonnet, there is not going to be gaping at the back. This part is going to be closed up. Okay, so I hope you understand that. After gathering, this is what I have. Our satin bonnet cap is already formed. So what I need to do now is to go on to measure this and see if I have the circumference of my head plus the extra 2 inches that I said I'm going to add. That is 25 inches. So I'll just go ahead and measure this, check that I have 25 inches. If I don't have 25 inches, I will need to loosen up the gathers a bit. Okay, so I hope you understand that. So let's keep measuring. And so what I have here is what, 24. So I'll just just ease this up a bit, and then I'll go ahead, measure again. So I have about 25 inches right here. So I'll tie this part up so that the size of the cap doesn't increase by the loosening of the gather. So I'm going to stop my gathers from loosening at this point by tying it. So you want to do that for yours. Now once that is done, what I'm going to do is take this to my sewing machine again, and I'm going to be stitching right on top of these gathers. This will help to hold everything in place, and it will also help to flatten the bulging right here that the gathers have created, and it will also make attaching this to the band of the bonnet much more easier. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and stitch right on top of the gathers to hold it in place. So guys, I've stitched down on my gathers, and this is what I have. What I'm going to do now is to trim off my thread, which is the one I used to gather the fabric, since everything has been stitched down. So this is what we're going to have for the bonnet cap at the end of the day. Okay, so you can see how neat this is coming out, and this is our opening here to enable us, easily wear this bonnet cap. So what I'm going to do is to go on to cut my band, and this is what I have for the band. I've cut it on both the satin fabric as well as the Ankara print fabric. Okay, the length of this band is cut to the circumference of my head plus an extra 5.5 inches. The circumference of my head is 23 plus 5.5 is 28.5, so I have about 28.5 right here. The width of the band is 2.5 inches. We have half an inch seam allowance at the top, half an inch seam allowance at the bottom. So the width of the band at the end of the day will come to 1.5 inches. Okay, I want to use 1.5 inches for this tutorial. So I'm going to place the pieces, both satin and Ankara print fabric, on top of each other with right sides touching like this. So can you see? And then I'm going to sew the top by a half an inch seam allowance. I'll also go on to sew the sides, both here and here. I'm going to close it up. I'll be sewing it by a 1/4 of an inch on both sides. I've sewn the band, I've sewn the top, and then I've sewn the sides as well. And what I did was to go on to press it, and then I folded this Ankara part by a half an inch. So what I'm going to do now is fold the band into two like this. Okay, and if you remember, the circumference of my head is 23 inches, and then I added an extra 2 inches for overlap, making this 25 inches. So what I'm going to do is to come to my band now. That 25 inches, I'm going to be dividing that into 2, and that's going to give me 12.5. From the midpoint here, I'm going to mark that 12.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be having 1 extra inch allowance. So I'll come right here as well, mark 12.5 inches again. So just go ahead and do that for yours. Whatever you're marking, the focus is at the bottom. So guys, the 12.5 inch that I marked on this my band unfold, I pinned the edge of my satin cap. I pinned it to that 12.5 inch. That's where we're going to be sewing from. Do you understand? And I made sure to pin satin to satin. Okay, you want to do that because this is the part that is going to rest on your head, and you don't want your hair to disappear. So just go on to pin it down like this. I've pinned the other end as well, the edge of the satin bonnet to where I marked the 12.5 inches on the band unfold. And what I'm going to do is take this to my sewing machine now. I'll be sewing the bonnet cap to the band by a half an inch seam allowance. Okay, and I'm sewing just on the satin part of the band. So I'll just take this to my sewing machine now and then stitch this down all around the bonnet cap. So after sewing it up, this is what I have. So can you see how neat is looking on the inside? The next thing I'm going to do is to grab this part now. Remember, I've already folded the edge of the print fabric by a half an inch seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is to just use it to cover up the raw edges. So can you see what I'm doing? And then I'll take this to my sewing machine, and what I'll be doing is stitching right from this edge here all the way down to the other end. Fold this part in and then stitch as well. Okay, it's very simple. So I'll just go ahead and close this up. So guys, after attaching the band to the bonnet to close everything up, this is what I have. Can you see how neat this is looking? Remember that what I did on the bonnet was the circumference of my head plus an extra 2 inches, right? 1 inch on both sides. So what I'm going to do is do an overlap of 1 inch. Okay, and ensure that this one overlaps this one by 1 inch. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. And then what I'm going to do is to pin this down. We do not want this to move, so just go ahead and pin yours down. So after pinning this down, this is what I have. The next thing that you can do is to go on to attach press buttons at this side. So this is what press buttons look like. So For this bonnet, I'll prefer to use the metal ones. They are easy to snap into place and easy to remove. So what I'm going to do is to go on to attach this press button on this side. You can decide to go with two, one here, just to properly secure it. You can go with one. I'll be attaching it to this side, and then I'll be attaching it to the other, you know, end as well, just to, you know, properly secure it. If you don't attach it to this end, this part may be dropping out. Okay, so make sure to attach it to both ends of, you know, the satin bonnet, or the band of the satin bonnet. So guys, that's it for this satin bonnet. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell so you get updates when I post new videos, and I'm going to be seeing you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.